Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna sit back.
Citizens of the world, welcome to another edition of Live from the Heartland. The Live from the Heartland show has been around for a while, and wherever you're listening or viewing from, we're glad you've tuned in to listen or to watch. I have Euan Hague here with me today. He's my co-host, and we're going to work him overtime with have him fill in a spot we have later in the show. Good morning to you, Euan.
Good morning, Mike. I've been out of town and looking forward to regaling you with some of my observations.
Well, you're an interesting fellow, and that's why you're a co-host of the show, and we'll be glad to hear what you have to say. Just in case anyone's missing what's going on in the world, the Iran war continues.
I thought it was finished.
No, they said it was finished, but
it's
they
back
changed
on
their
again.
mind.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we have migrants, being moved around the globe because of climate change and political turmoil. Israel has bombed Gaza again and says they're not pulling out until Hamas is totally unarmed. And of course, we have the president of the United States going nuts over his swimming pool, or the reflecting pool, as it's really known. And they had indicted David Hearn, former Olympic canoeist, on a federal felony vandalism charge. But lo and behold, Trump's woman, Pirro, I believe her name is, dropped the case. And really, they have scolded Burnham, Doug Burnham, I believe he is the Interior Secretary, for botching the whole deal. So you got anything to add to that? Any other disasters and terrible things going on?
Well, not in politics. I have a personal... My mother-in-law passed away last week, Joanne Breitbach, in her 80s. Grew up in South Dakota in the 1950s on a farm, and was knew George McGovern, actually, was a supporter of McGovern in his campaigns in the 1960s. And so an old school prairie progressive, I guess, from that era. So I just want to pass my best wishes on to my wife and her extended family. My mother-in-law was one of 6 kids, grew up on a farm. And so, really kind of a really great. I've gotten to know her over the last 20 years, and she'll be greatly missed.
Well, your wife is a wonderful person, and her mom must have really been something else too. And we do like those prairie populists. Okay, we'll take a quick short musical break, and we'll be right back with our first guest, and that'll be the one and only Don Rose, and we're going to get his take on Tuesday's elections around the country, particularly in Michigan, and I'm going to push him to give us any of his good thoughts about how the Chicago mayoral race is shaping up. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with Live from the Heartland.
Yes, see, rider, girl, see what you has done. Yes, yes, yes. See, rider, see what you has done. Man has come. Well, I'm going away, baby, and it won't be black no fall. Yes, darling, going away, baby, won't be black no fall.
Welcome back to Live from the Heartland for the week of August 7th. And I'm still Michael James. I'm here with my co-host, Euan Hague.
Good morning.
Our first guest is no stranger to the show. Don Rose has been around a long time. He's in his 90s, and he's a really good analyst of political activity, and most of the time in predictions, although we did all together have one prediction back in 2016 that did not work out. So anyhow, good morning to you, Don.
Good morning. How are you?
We're good. Well, I've been up off and on since about 5 this morning, and it is Wednesday on the 5th of August. And yesterday was primary day around the country. And one of the races that everybody who is tuned into this sort of thing was watching was the Michigan Democratic primary for the Senate position, which is now going to be open. And only at around 9 o'clock this morning did they say that El-Sayed had won the race. So how about you talk a little bit about what you got from yesterday's elections in Michigan and beyond?
Well, I think it was evident from the very beginning that El-Sayed was going to win. And the question still remains, is he too far left for that race? My feeling is with the establishment such as it is there, coming around him and rejoining his campaign, that he can carry it. It's a very important race. We don't want to lose a seat that we've got, the very wonderful Gary Peters. I'm surprised he dropped out or decided not to run again. I'm very sorry. He would have been a cinch. So I would say that this race is going to be very, very close. I think, just politically, I would have preferred that the establishment candidate win. But I think El-Sayed can win, but it's going to be a tougher one than I prefer to run when we've got to pick up 4 new seats as well as hold on to the seats we've got.
Yeah, the primary was very close. He won by 1% against Haley Stevens, I believe her name is, and she was endorsed by Governor Whitmer, who's very strong in Michigan and has brought a number of people across the finish line, but she did not on this one. And I did see that El-Sayed's opponent came out yesterday and was very clear that she would support him in the race. Whoever won would get her support, her or El-Sayed.
Well, if they can couple that with all the new voters that El-Sayed theoretically brought into this race, we've got to look at, there's a lot to analyze yet that we don't know now that it's just barely over. But if we can get the establishment, Haley and company behind El-Sayed and pick up his new younger people, then I think we can hold on to that seat. But it's a little nervous.
Do you want to share anything else on the kind of split that they talk about in the news between the old guard Democrats and the younger Democrats, particularly around the issue of Gaza?
Well, that's going to be the continuing issue in Democratic politics all the way up to Election Day. It's a matter of how people decide to compromise on the issue of Israel. And we don't know that, but we are hoping that there will be a decent compromise rather than a batch of people who say, the hell with Israel. If you're for it, we're against it, and so on.
Are there any other races from Tuesday that caught your attention, Don?
Nothing of any dramatic possibility. There was a few. There was, I believe, another Democratic Socialist elected, but this would have been for a seat, and it's not. And not going to play in the larger scale.
Can I twist your arm to talk a little bit more about the kind of split in the Democratic Party that I think gets hyped up a lot by the media, but I'm sure there's some real basis to it too.
Well, there is a basis. There are people who, if you have anything to do with Israel, don't want anything to do with you. There are those who compromise on Israel. The issue of anti-Semitism always reigns high when people are criticizing Israel. If you don't think Israel has a right to exist, that's one thing. If you think it has a right to exist, but it's doing the wrong thing, that's another. We have a split of opinions. You know, the old saying, 2 Jews, 3 opinions. And this is a very tricky situation. It does involve people forgiving each other or coming together when the big numbers come in, when we have to make that big vote. And it's a matter of how well both sides can compromise with each other.
Ewan, you're muted.
Yeah, I think another thing about the primary in Michigan, of course, is the state is home to a large Arab American population, which was seen as playing a big role in previous elections in the state. And also, I've not been following it closely, but from what I've been reading and listening to, El-Sayed is seen to be a really great retail politician, very natural in his demeanor, really connecting with people. And so a lot of people are saying, you know, he's very reflective of a very engaged, dynamic candidate. So, you know, there's other elements. I mean, obviously the issue with Israel is, you know, he's strongly opposed to U.S. support for Israel. I think that will overshadow a lot of it, but he has a lot of other qualities that I think people have been attracted to in his campaign.
Oh, there's no question that he has a lot of personal and campaign qualities, just like the mayor of New York. It always takes more than one element. It's not just a position, but he's the kind of guy who can sell his position.
Yeah, I think, you know, we've been on this show for the last year almost. I've been raising the whole question, often with some of my guests who are Jewish, about the role that the Gaza struggle is going to take in the future for the Democratic Party. And, you know, I'm not sure that the Democrats have really got a handle on this yet. It clearly, I mean, my position would be, you know, we certainly respect the state of Israel, but we don't like the government and their policies. And what it did do with the whole Gaza war has really brought up the history of Palestinians in Israel and the whole Palestine-Israel split, two-state solution, all those kind of issues. I don't know. Does anyone have an idea about where this ought to go, or what kind of position we might ought to take?
I think we're still in flux on that one. You're absolutely right. We have very bad actions by the state of Israel, and it's hard to for a lot of people to distinguish the actions of the state and the position of Jews. I'm Jewish. I support the state of Israel, but not what it's doing. And I think you know, one of the 3 or 4 worst men on earth right now is Benjamin Netanyahu, who talked Donald Trump into starting a war with Iran. He's been trying to get American presidents to start wars, and they've all wisely avoided it. And he succeeded here, and we're in another muddle.
We're in a muddle.
That's a whole other issue.
I like that. We're in a muddle.
Muddle.
Well, let's hope there's not too much of a big muddle on this other thing, but how about the Chicago mayoral election, which is coming up for February 2027. And, I listen to public radio when I'm driving to and from the Y. And over the last few days, last week maybe, they've been having potential mayoral candidates on. Like they had Susan Mendoza on yesterday. So we decided that we would go to you and ask your thoughts on the upcoming mayoral race. How does it look shaping up to you? What do you got to share?
Well, the big mystery and the thing that, holds back any kind of predictions is that the mayor himself has not said whether he is going to run again. Now, we don't know whether that's his own personal thing, whether he decides not to run or whether he is in deep conference with the Chicago Teachers Union. And until we know whether the mayor is running again, it's hard to make a good view of the table. My feeling right now is that the leading candidate is Alexei Janulius. He's well known. He's turned out to be an honest guy, which people worried about. He's
back when his family had a bank that got into some trouble.
Yeah, and that's why he lost the Senate race years ago. But I would say he's in the best position right now. There are a lot of people hanging out there, Congressman Quigley is a plausible candidate, but until we know who the CTU is backing and whether that means Johnson runs again, it's still a mystery. Although, as I can repeat again, that the one right now best situated is Alexei Janulius. If I had my personal choice, I'd pick Cam Buckner from the state legislature, but I'm not going to get my personal choice in this one.
What is your thing? Go ahead, Euan.
I was going to say one of the first people to declare was former Congressman Mike Quigley from the North Side. Do you think he's getting any traction?
He will have some. I see some of I use the word plausible about him. I don't think he is a lead candidate, although early on, he developed a position as a reformer. But we've got to see how he sets into the larger picture, and the larger picture has not been developed.
And do you think with the large number of candidates already declaring, it suggests Johnson is definitely vulnerable, I think?
Well, Johnson is vulnerable already. There's no question in my mind that somebody whose numbers are in the 20s is a serious threat. But it looks as how the rest of the thing is spread out. He might wind up being one of these guys who comes in with a very small number of votes, but he's got just a few more than the next 10 people who are running. It's, as I say, it's an undeveloped picture. And I don't think he should run again. I don't think he can possibly win, but it depends on what's happening with the union, which is the most important non-candidate player, as it was when Johnson won.
My thoughts I was going to share on Johnson was I was not real excited about his early days in office, but I thought around the ICE stuff and he kind of got energized and played a good role. And I talked to some of the CTU people, Chicago Teachers Union, and they would say, these people I were talking to, that he has sort of stuck up for his principles and what he stands for. And I kind of given who's running against him, if he runs, I would be still pretty open to working for Johnson. I think he's young and was inexperienced and is evolving. Just to let me share, because I went and looked this up, people running for office right now are Susan Mendoza, who's the Illinois comptroller.
Who has run before and
lost.
did zilch.
Right. And then we got Janulius, we got Quigley, we got George Cardenas, we got Matt Brewer, we got Maria Pappas, Joe Hallberg, John Kelly, Lissa Nee, Liam Stanton, and then the incomparable, always there, Willie Wilson.
Well, when you lay it out like that, how many of those names strike bells and have people right now, when you run through that, have somebody saying, "That's it"? Yeah. I think it's all pretty flat there. We've got a lot of losers and a lot of hopers and wishers, but I didn't hear any names there that provide a threat, let's say, to Janulius if he continues where he is.
I'm blocking my next question that I had. Oh yeah, I wondered what your thoughts were on two of these candidates who are getting some attention, Susan Mendoza and Alexei Janulius. They're both running for the offices that they currently hold. And your thoughts on people running for two positions in the same race or in the same election?
Well, it's legal. That's all we can say about it. I don't like it, but we've got a lot of legalities that make one unhappy. Make up your mind, one race or another.
And these days, you don't have to be truthful or follow the law. You can sort of do whatever you want, apparently. Don, let me ask you, what do you think are some of the key issues that will come up in the mayoral election in February?
Money, 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 money. Who's got the solution to this huge debt that we've got running? It's all about the bucks right now. And if anybody sitting here comes up with a solution for the money that's feasible, they could win.
Well, that would be great to get some money from the local to all the way up. If we all had more money, we could do better.
Well, we need somebody who's going to get along much better with Pritzker, which Johnson has failed to do. We've got to have a mayor who can work in tandem with Pritzker, because we're going to need a lot of state help to solve that financial solution.
Final question. Do you think there are any other people who will jump into the race? And if you do, I know you mentioned Cam Buckner, but who else might be a candidate? And are there any that would be non-white?
Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know anybody who at the moment is preparing to do so. So, I can think of 6 different aldermen who would like to jump in. Whether any of them will, who knows?
Well, Don Rose, it's good to see you, and we'll be back in touch. We'll have you on again, and I want to thank you for coming on today, and I want to thank everyone who's listening so far for having tuned in or are viewing live from the Heartland, and we are going to be right back after a musical break with our second half of the show. We're going to have my co-host Euan Hague talking about his recent travels, what he's seen, what he thinks, and we also are going to have Peter Schulte from up there in Bellingham, Washington, who comes on the show regularly and talks about good news for humankind. And we're all for that. We need all the good news that we can get. Okay,
always
we'll be right
pleasure.
back with Live from the Heartland. Stay tuned here on the left end of your dial or however you're getting this show. Thanks, Don.
Something happened to me yesterday. car right away. Something happened to me, something also groovy. Something happened to me yesterday.
He don't know if it's right or wrong. Maybe he should tell someone. He's not sure just what it was, or if it's against the law.
Something. Something very strange I hear you say. You're talking in a most peculiar...
Citizens of the world, welcome back to Live from the Heartland show for the week of August 7th. And I'm still Michael James. I'm here with Euan Hague. And just a reminder that if you enjoy the conversations we have on this show every week, we always could use your support. We have to meet our expenses. And you can reach us at livefromtheheartlandshow@gmail.com. You can mail to us at 1509 West Lunt, 60626. And you can hit the donation button on our YouTube page. That's the Live from the Heartland show. Okay, well, our co-host Euan is now turned into a guest, and we're going to grill him about his recent travels.
Hey, Mike.
How are you?
Still
there, Euan?
I'm still here. I'm back in town after a couple of weeks away. I was recently in the Netherlands, and also I was recently in the United Kingdom. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about what I learned on my travels and sort of think a little bit about some of the contrasts we have with the United States. So let's take Amsterdam first.
Okay, you've been to Amsterdam. I got to say, I was there once on my way to South Africa. And I did go to the Bulldog, and I actually asked if I could smoke what I got there, and they said, "Oh, sure." It was quite a change from the States at that time.
Yeah, though of course that is now in Illinois, it's adult use of marijuana is legal. So we finally caught up to Amsterdam, where that's been the case for about 20 years, and I think I saw a lot of stuff in the city that makes us think where Chicago and where the United States might be in 20 years. First thing you notice in that.
Go ahead.
The first thing you notice in Amsterdam is transportation. You have trams, bikes going everywhere. The city's completely flat like Chicago. There's a lot of canals, a lot of canal boat tours, but it's there's trains, metro, buses, trams, bikes, pedestrian areas. It's the transportation network is really much better developed, I think, than ours here in Chicago, and it's really easy to get around to all parts of the city on whatever form of transportation you choose to use. So that's really, it's become a kind of leader in transportation and kind of climate action.
Do the people on their bikes still wear white, like the song said?
I think originally the bikes were painted white. The first sort of generation of free bikes were painted white, but now it's just all kinds of colors and so forth.
I was very impressed when I was there, only from the airport to a place we stayed and back to the airport. But the roads and the lanes for bikes and the turnarounds and we're catching up a little bit here. We do have bike lanes now, but it was a sharp contrast.
Right.
To what we had here in the States.
Although, of course, the Trump administration just came out opposed to bike lanes, seeing them as a DEI thing, and they wanted to get rid of DEI bike lanes. I mean, it's so backward looking. The other big thing that was going on, actually, we were just there before, but it was going to be the World Pride Festival was in Amsterdam. It's finishing this weekend. It's on right now. And really, everything was introduced by their prime minister. So that they have a king and queen, but the prime minister is the head of state, kind of like the United Kingdom. But Rob Jetten is their prime minister. He's the first. He's only 39 years old. Former climate minister for climate policy and openly gay prime minister. So he was there, sort of celebrating, introducing the upcoming events at Amsterdam's World Pride Festival. And one thing that in the materials I was reading about it, they were contrasting this with last year's World Pride Festival. Do you know where that was, Mike?
I don't know where it was. I was going to ask you where it was because I got it in my notes.
It was in Washington. It's in Washington, D.C. last year.
Oh, I remember. That was a great big celebration. Thousands
so everything got kind of like, there was such a damper on last year. With the Trump administration coming in, a lot of the federally owned venues canceled events and made them relocate. Obviously, given the immigration and anti-DEI policies and so forth, many international performers and people didn't travel. And so the attendance was much less than expected. And a number of corporate sponsors withdrew because of the anti-DEI atmosphere created by Trump. So corporate sponsors withdrew from World Pride 2025. And so what you have is kind of a situation where that whole change in atmosphere and disappointment, I think, with 2025 has led to the events that we saw ramping up in Amsterdam. It was going to be, probably going to be a full-on party in the city for the full 2 weeks.
What's the government like in, not Amsterdam, but the country, the Netherlands?
Well, it's a coalition government, currently sort of led by the center-left politician Rob Jetten, but people might be familiar with a previous prime minister, Mark Rutte, who has become like the NATO secretary and has got a lot of publicity in his kind of interactions with President Trump. What you have in the Netherlands, it's a constitutional monarchy, much like the United Kingdom, where you still have a royal family, but the parliament and the prime minister are the leaders. And there's been a lot of coalitions. And what has happened this year is almost kind of the mainstream politicians have united in coalition to prevent the far right coming to power. And so you had the far right leader, I think, got like 20% of the vote. And in a system where you have multiple parties getting 20% of the vote, it looked like he might be able to form a government. And then the kind of centrists and left coalesced around this young man, Rob Jetten, to basically form the government to prevent the far right anti-immigration party taking over. So I think you have those tensions in the country between the right and left, maybe between the big metropolis. We were in Amsterdam, which is obviously a big city, maybe more rural or other areas were not necessarily in support of some of the progressive policies. But I think what you've seen there is a coalition to come together. And this coalition has only been in power since February of 2026, so only a few months. But a coalition has come together, putting aside their differences to prevent the far right taking the reins of power. We went to a couple of famous tourist attractions as well. We went to Anne Frank's house, and just seeing the Holocaust commemorations around the city really makes you sort of think about how places commemorate tragic events. Like you'll see on the sidewalk, you'll see brass plaques which will identify where the former residents who were taken from that address to a concentration camp. So you'll see those plaques on the ground. And then there's a Holocaust memorial, which is every individual who was taken and died in the Holocaust has a brick, and it's this long wall of bricks. And it's just, thinking through some of those commemorative practices is really kind of interesting to compare with how maybe we in the United States have commemorated things over time.
Euan Hague, we got a few minutes left, and I know that you didn't want to just stay in Amsterdam. You also went to Scotland, your homeland.
I did.
And what's going on over in Great Britain and in Scotland? There's a lot of talk about, in the last few days in the news, about the British Navy returning migrants to their origin, which probably they were in France before they came across the Channel. What are they talking about over there in the UK? Brexit's been around a while, Doesn't seem to work out. Give us a little hint.
Well, there's a few things that have gone on. While we were there, Andy Burnham replaced Keir Starmer as the Prime Minister. Andy Burnham, a centre-left politician, but very similar policies almost to Keir Starmer, both from the Labour Party, but a more dynamic politician, very versed in social media. He's doing TikToks and Instagram and really trying to get his message across in a way that many felt Keir Starmer couldn't do. The big news while I was there was Count Binface running for... Have you heard of Count Binface, Mike?
No, there's a Count Dante who was a martial arts guy here.
No, Count Binface. So there's this tradition in British politics of having novelty candidates, and the far-right anti-immigrant politician Nigel Farage, who's been kind of the leader on the anti-immigrant and the pro-Brexit beat, he accepted $5 million from a crypto billionaire, but he accepted it when he was a candidate prior to election. But it's been investigated for money laundering and so forth. So he said, I will resign my seat, and then I will run it back. I will run for re-election, and the people will support me. And the people will say that this was a legitimate gift of $5 million to me personally, £5 million, sorry, and I will win this election. So he resigns his position, which triggers a special election, but then none of the other political parties put up a candidate. And so you've got the situation where he was running unopposed because it's basically a political stunt to resign your own position and cause a special election. So then this comedy character, Count Binface, a bin in the UK, that's a trash can. It's a guy, he's dressed as a space warlord and wears a trash can on his head. And he's currently polling 20%, and he's the only candidate against Nigel Farage. And he has some of his policies are good. One of his policies is that oil and gas companies should pay for solar panels for everybody. The other policy is I will lower your taxes and raise everyone else's, which when you think about it, doesn't make a lot of sense. And he's got all kinds of, one of his policies is that the hand dryer in the men's restroom needs to move because it's in a bad place. And so, but he's currently polling at 20%, and there is a real possibility. There's a lot of undecideds, and I think people are deciding, do I sit out in this special election? Do I vote for Nigel Farage with his anti-immigrant perspective? And Farage won the seat last time. Or do I vote for a trash can? And there's a real possibility right now. The election is on August the 13th, so just a week or so away. There's a real possibility that the most outspoken far-right anti-immigrant politician in the United Kingdom might lose his seat in a special election to a man dressed as a trash can. So that's something to look forward to in the next week or so. We're
looking forward to the trash can victory.
Count Binface.
Thanks a lot, Euan. We're going to take a short musical break. We're going to come back with Peter Schulte. He's up in Bellingham, Washington, and we discovered him with his website and emails online. They're called Good News for Humankind. And he is a guy who scours the news and finds really positive things going on in the world to share with others. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned here on the left end of your dial, or however you're getting the Live from the Heartland show. Citizens of the world, welcome back to Live from the Heartland for the week of August 7th. I'm Michael James. I'm still here with Euan Hague. And you know how we usually start this program off each week with some miserable things going on in the world, like a war in Iran, we really like to end the show on a really positive note. And we discovered Peter Schulte up in Bellingham, Washington, who does a website, emails, etc., called Good News for Humankind. Good day to you, Peter, and glad to have you.
Great to be here, Michael. Thanks again for having me. Yeah.
So we've got a few minutes here at the end of the show. How about you tell us a few things that you would say are good news for humankind? Sure.
Okay, so one from yesterday, New Jersey has declared itself as functional zero on veteran homelessness. So they've spent $30 million over the last few years on a program. And this functional zero means not literally that there's no houseless veterans out on the street, but when they are, it's, brief, and they get them off the streets quickly. So it's hard to verify this, but they've declared themselves as at functional zero, which is really good news. And it really shows that, sometimes we think of homelessness or houselessness as this problem that we just there's nothing we can do about it. And there is something we can do about it when we have the will and care to do so. Was there any detail on how they did it? No, I know it was through a big investment, but I don't really honestly know the details of the mechanics of it. Yeah, sorry. Well, that's good news. Okay, how about something else? Yeah, another one. China, for really the first time ever, is getting less than half of its electricity from coal. So coal has dropped below the majority marker as they just, China is just pouring investment into solar and wind and other renewables. This is really good news that it shows like the needle is moving. And it's also important to clarify that their absolute use of coal is still rising. They still use more coal than the rest of the world combined. So it's not like the end of the story, but I think it's moving the needle, and it's projected, their coal use is projected to plateau and begin to declining around 2030. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've been so short-sighted here in the United States under the Trump administration the last few years, paying renewable energy companies to go away and abandon projects. It's just been so backwards. And, I think I mentioned this last time, even with coal, it's just like the economics of it don't even make sense anymore. So the pushing it, maybe it makes a few people wealthy, but it doesn't make sense for the economy. Yeah. But, even in the States, that's playing out. And despite the administration, there's a bunch of investment in solar and wind and other renewables. That actually leads me to another story. So California, it's just one state, but it's on its own. It's like the fourth or fifth or something like that biggest economy in the world. And it now gets more. This is kind of the inverse of the China one. My hair's kind of going crazy. It gets now more than 50% of its energy from solar. So it's, despite anything the administration doing, California, at least, and many other states are rapidly moving forward. One of the things I love that California is doing, before this, my career was in water and climate sustainability. One thing California has pioneered is they put solar panels on the canals. And so it keeps the canals from losing water to evaporation. And it just, miles and miles and miles of good location for their solar panels. You're meaning like irrigation canals in the agricultural areas? There's all these water projects across the strait delivering water here and there, and they can put solar panels right on top, and it's kind of a win-win. On a connected note, I've saw somewhere that some farmers are putting solar panels in their field, but growing plants underneath them. Exactly. It can be a way to shade things. It's more space, but then it also creates, a more diverse kind of things for different plants to grow. So there's a lot of really cool kind of win-win scenarios there. Yeah. Before I forget, Peter, how do people find your information online? Yeah, I'm at peterschulte.org. They can sign up for my free newsletter at peterschulte.org/newsletter. Yeah.
Good. All right. Give us some more good news for humankind, because we're looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah, let's see what else I've got here. All right, so Kazakhstan, it's actually a huge Central Asian nation, and it's there's this species called the saiga antelope. I think I'm pronouncing that right, and it was down 20 years ago. It was down to 25,000 individuals, and it's since rebounded to over 4.5 million. Enough for it to win the 2024 Earthshot Prize in Conservation. And it's just a major conservation success story. So that's a good one.
Tell me again who in Kazakhstan, what happened?
It's the saiga antelope. So it's like a species of antelope.
Oh, so there's they got a lot more animals running around in Kazakhstan.
There was a really concerted effort to rebuild their population, and it's worked. And, I have tons of stories like that, almost too many to put in there. But, of course, there are animals being endangered and going extinct. That's still happening. But there also are, so many success stories around the world. Another one, Nepal's wild tiger population is, exploding after being decimated. So that's a cool one. I love tigers, so... there's just a bunch of stories like that. Well,
I've been reading a lot about bears in Japan, and
I haven't seen that one.
It's getting to be an issue. I mean, there are more and more bears closer to humans, and check it out.
And when we were in Scotland, we at the safari park there, the snow leopard, which is a very endangered species as well, had just had twins, and so we saw them on one of their first public viewings. A couple, not often you associate Scotland with snow leopards, but in captivity, they're managing to have a breeding couple that has produced twins. Which, given those low populations of those animals, anything is, these are all steps towards conservation and sort of making sure we as humans are responsible stewards of the planet.
Absolutely. Another one I'm remembering is humpback whales globally. I think in 1986, when the whaling ban went in place, we're down to 10,000, and they're now up to 100,000. Wow. So they're rebounding. They just saw the largest super group of, I forget what it's called, of humpback whales. It was 226 all right next to each other. The biggest group of humpback whales ever seen. So that's another cool one.
That's cool.
You're up in Bellingham, but I know that in parts of Washington State, there's a bunch of fires going on. Anything on that?
Yeah, not in the good news category. It's really, it's pretty clearly bad news. It seems like it's arson related in part. I was born in Spokane, where a lot of the fires are. My sister lives there now. I was just there 2 weeks ago to send my kid to summer camp. It's really devastating to see it like that. It's smoky here in Bellingham, but I wish I had good news for you on that front. But no, it's really sad. And this time of the year is so bittersweet. It's summer and a lot of fun things, but just more and more it's smoky. And I'm just realizing how many trees and other creatures out there are not.
Peter, we have a few minutes left, so keep socking it to us with some good news for humankind.
All right, I'll keep up the good vibes.
Let's get back to the positives.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. Since 2024, there was a big summit in Africa. There has been $3 billion invested in clean cooking. So one of the leading causes of death in the world is actually people in poorly ventilated homes burning coal or firewood or other things, and the smoke gets captured in their house, and there's particulate matter, and it can cause pneumonia, I think. But it's one of the less talked about major causes of death around the world. So there's this big push, especially in Africa, to offer electric cooking or other better ventilated cooking that just is a major public health win. And there's just been billions and billions of dollars put into it, which is a major win. Yeah.
Yeah, like again, some of that is solar powered, right? A lot of it, I think, is solar powered again, like solar ovens and
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and the solar, it's not better for their health, but it's more if they're not attached to a grid, it's a little bit more resilient. So regardless of what's happening elsewhere, that they have a little bit more autonomy that way. So a lot of wins. Yeah.
Okay, how about two more?
Two more. Okay. Indonesia has achieved universal health coverage, I guess, for 98% of its population.
Wow.
Yeah. And Indonesia is like top 3 or 4 most populated countries in the world. It's huge. And it now has a unified insurance program across the country that serves, I guess, 98% of its.
Wow. They estimate 290 million people live in Indonesia.
Yeah.
So it's not, huge. I mean, it's, the US is about is over 300 million, but I mean, if they can achieve it, and they're scattered across multiple islands, if they can achieve it, it's something that should be, and it's a challenge to the United States still. Congrats to Indonesia.
Well, people, or at least certain politicians don't want it, but I think,
true.
Logistically, it could be possible. It'd be a major investment and some transition, but many countries around the world have shown that it's very possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, we are out of time, so we're going to leave it at that. We're going to thank everybody who helped make this show possible today. We want to thank our engineer, Hal James, my co-host, Euan Hague, our political commentator, Don Rose, our environmental Good News for Humankind guy, Peter Schulte. Next week, we'll have Leela Wills from the Historic Preservation Society of Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party. And we'll have our Michigan correspondent, Paul Draus, fill us in on where he's been, what he saw, and what he thinks. You all know the drill. Keep doing good in the world, because the world needs all the good that we do, particularly all the good that we do together. See you next week. Have a great week. Over and out.
She can. Over the mountain.
Thank you for watching the Live from the Heartland show.
You got a dream
New episodes
awaiting.
air every Friday beginning at 9 a.m. Central Time.
It may not come
easy, on Can
but
TV,
you know you've got a friend.
Sweet Home Chicago.
I'll be by your side the entire ride. Just let me hear you say amen. Are you doing?
Audio episodes go live on WLUW Saturday 9 a.m. on the left end of your dial at 88.7 FM or streaming everywhere worldwide at WLUW.org.
Are you doing the best you can?
They're available on Apple and Spotify podcasts by looking up Live from the Heartland on either platform, and are also broadcast on Lumpen Radio Friday at 9 a.m. 105.5 FM and streaming at lumpenradio.com. I'm Michael James, and I'm glad to have been your host. Until next time, remember, do good in the world, because the world needs all the good that you do, that I do, that we do together. All power to the people. Over and out.
Come to limb. Are you doing the best you can? Tell me, are you doing? Are you doing the best you can?